No one can make that shot, Commander Cole declared. He stared at the readout 2,050 meters. The words hung in the desert air like a verdict. Then Rachel Monroe settled behind her rifle. Crosshairs locked on the first general through reinforced glass. The Barrett cracked once, twice, 3 times. In 11 seconds, 3 enemy commanders lay dead, their blood staining the maps they would never finish. The SEAL team sat in stunned silence. The impossible had just become inevitable. Before we begin, tell us where are you watching from? And if you believe honor and courage still matter, help keep their legacy alive. Commander Cole said no one can make that shot. 30 seconds later, 3 enemy generals were on the floor. Rachel Monroe blended into the rock and scrub. Her brown hair was tied back in a tight knot. Her green eyes stared through glass that turned distance into detail. She wore a ghillie suit and a calm face. Up close, she looked ordinary. At a glance, she looked like any support sniper on a recon mission. Her hands moved like someone who had spent a life with measurements and machines. She was the daughter of an aerodynamics engineer and a physics professor from Caltech. Numbers and wind and trajectories had been bedtime stories in her house. She sketched equations on notebook margins and listened to barrels like music. That childhood made her careful and precise, not showy. Iron Rock Valley was hard to hide in. Sun baked the stones and wind cut in unpredictable gusts. The enemy compound sat high on the ridge with guards on patrol. Guard towers, wire, camouflaged vehicles, and drones made the place a tight humming machine. The compound's windows stared like a brain that would not sleep. Patrols moved with mechanical rhythm. Commander Ethan Cole led 8 SEAL operators. He had a face that learned to mistrust surprises. 17 years and 100 operations gave him a quiet, rigid certainty. Chief Logan Pierce watched Rachel with a half smile. He had earned the right to be cynical. "Army sniper brought here," he said under his breath. "We have our men." Rachel heard the remark and did not flinch. She logged wind shifts, temperature, humidity, and angle. Her notebook was weatherproof and full of tiny, precise entries. Their orders were simple: observe and report. Rules of engagement were tight. The mission fed intelligence, not headlines. A mini UAV drifted close on an automated sweep and its camera found a room. 3 high-ranking targets stood shoulder to shoulder near a wide window. Maps spread before them. The image changed everything. Radio traffic tightened. The chain authorized a new option: eliminate, if feasible. Priority Alpha clicked into their headsets like a threat. Cole checked the tablet. Distance readout 2050 meters, a number that sat on charts in theory, not most field books. "It's outside effective range," Pierce muttered. His certainty had saved teams and lost men. "Even our best can't guarantee a headshot at that distance." Rachel closed the cap on her rangefinder and set it down. She met Cole's eyes. There was math folded into muscle. "I can reach them," she said. 3 shots, 3 targets. Silence widened. Faces shifted between disbelief and a thin, creeping hope. Cole's jaw worked. He weighed lives against doctrine. Time compressed. The window would snap shut. Helicopters could arrive and the 3 men might disperse. Every second measured like a tiny falling stone. Rachel rolled out a small, weatherproof notebook and flicked to a page full of formulas. Inked numbers filled wind gradients, barometric corrections, spin drift and Coriolis adjustments. It looked like a researcher's ledger more than a sniper's log. Her fingers traced numbers. She had run these models before hardware and practiced in deserts and mountain ridges. She knew how a .50 BMG behaved and how small errors multiplied. Cole inhaled. He balanced protocol and possibility, weighing extraction plans and the cost of being wrong. He thought of what removing 3 senior commanders would do to the enemy network. A thin wind lifted dust. The team faced a choice: retreat to safety or trust one woman's calculation. The valley held its breath with them. She kept a catalog of failed shots as much as successes. Each miss taught her a correction. She carried those corrections like tools. Cole watched the notebook and watched her face. For a moment he saw not a single shooter, but a lifetime of calibration and quiet obsession that refused to be dismissed. Time narrowed further. Cole gathered the team in a tight circle and spoke low. The tablet glowed 2,050 meters to target. He stated the obvious at that distance. Nothing in their kit promised a guaranteed headshot. Logan Pierce folded his arms and barked a short laugh. He named common failure points mirage, microgusts, unpredictable spin drift. His tone cut across the dust like a knife. He meant to puncture hope with experience. Rachel did not answer his jibe. She wiped grit from her rangefinder, logged the latest readings, and flipped to a fresh page in her weatherproof notebook. Numbers filled the margin gradient, temperature lapse, barometer small things that shifted huge outcomes at extreme range. A younger operator, Petty Officer Reyes, glanced between Rachel and Pierce, unsure which logic to follow. He had seen good shooters and bad luck bend the same bullet path. The team's morale flickered like a flame in wind, half leaned to withdrawal, half to daring. Cole looked at Rachel as if searching for a new rule he'd never been taught. "If you miss one," he said bluntly, "we're compromised. Extraction is a nightmare then." His voice kept the weight of command and the calculus of risk. Rachel set the notebook closed and met his hard gaze. "I understand the stakes," she said. Her voice was steady, the kind that had rehearsed exactly what to say when seconds counted. "I've modeled the conditions. I have a firing solution." Pierce threw in another barb, soft enough to show contempt rather than cruelty. "Models are fine until desert thermals turn them into fiction," he said. "This isn't a lab. This is a live compound with people who will shoot back." Cole sighed and listened to the team argue the math of morality. He could order a pullback and live with the intelligence lost, or he could authorize action that might topple leadership and change the campaign. He thought of civilians caught in long wars, of small wins that become turning points. A reconnaissance drone hummed and returned a live feed, 3 men moving closer to the windows, gesturing over maps. The clock on Cole's tablet blinked roughly 5 minutes until scheduled extraction. Helicopter signatures showed on radar. Inbound. Time became a narrowing tunnel. Rachel peeled open her kit and began assembling her system with quiet hands. The barrel received a quick wipe. The scope turrets received minute clicks. She adjusted magnification, checked the ballistic reticle, and cross-referenced her notes with real-time wind holds. The motions were methodical, practiced until they looked like ritual rather than urgency. "Explain how you handle a sudden wind shear at 2,000 meters, Pierce demanded, still hunting a flaw. His face softened a fraction when she answered with specifics, not bravado, not metaphors, but precise steps and contingencies. Her voice traced the corrections she would make if a desert gust shifted the bullet's line by inches that became feet. 2 operators moved to set up the spotting gear non-committally, as if preparing for a training run. They deployed a secondary rangefinder and a laser designator for triangulation, forming an impromptu network to feed Rachel micro-updates. The team began to shape itself around the test part science, part hope. Cole barked assignments with clipped efficiency. One element would secure exfil routes, another would cover potential flanks. He placed Reyes in the observation slot to call any unexpected patrols, and he assigned 2 men to watch the ridgeline for anti-sniper movement. The mission became choreography of survival. The inbound helicopter blipped closer on the screen. Cole exhaled and made a command decision that felt heavier than any metal he'd ever held. "We will not withdraw," he said. "We will hold position and support the shot. If she says go, she fires. If she says no, we pull." His words welded the team's division into a single hinge of choice. Pierce's jaw tightened. He stepped back, but did not step away. The man who had mocked now set up a secondary spotting scope beside Rachel, perhaps to learn or perhaps to witness failure. Either way, he committed his skill to the contingency. Rachel closed her eyes for a heartbeat and ran a final mental checklist. Her pulse measured, breath controlled, mind folding outcomes into a tight lattice of probabilities. She felt the valley's heat push at her skin and the stone beneath her cheek. And she listened for the faintest hint of change in the air. A gust rolled through, small and sudden, stirring dust along a low ridge. Rachel observed the flag line of movement and clicked a compensating hold into her turret, adjusting for the microgust with a practiced micro-shift. Her hands were steady, The rifle felt like an extension of the math she'd carried since childhood. The team tightened. Radios softened to a single channel. Reyes whispered updates like a metronome. 2 minutes. Window still open. Helicopter ETA 3 minutes. The valley seemed to compress into that interval between breaths. Cole searched her face once more and gave a terse nod. The nod was a test turned into trust. Rachel exhaled and settled her cheek to the stock, aligning the crosshair to the first man at the window. The choice had been made. The valley held its breath, and the clock kept falling. Rachel adjusted the stock against her shoulder. She lowered her breathing until each inhale came slow and deliberate. Through the scope, the ridgeline sharpened into geometry angles, arcs, and predictable physics. Wind at ground level clocked 11 miles per hour from the northeast. Humidity hovered at 24%, barometric pressure lower than standard, altitude difference 40 meters. She entered the variables into her mind as easily as another soldier flipped a safety. The compound swam into focus. 3 generals stood near wide panes of glass, their hands over maps, their mouths moving in urgent rhythm. They believed themselves untouchable behind steel and stone. Rachel's pulse slowed to a metronome, 52 beats per minute. Dropping. Her body became an instrument tuned for one note. She aligned crosshairs on General Hassan Murad, the logistics chief. Trigger pressure was steady. No jerk, no tremor. The Barrett cracked. A .50 caliber slug began its 2.9-second flight, carving the air in an invisible arc. Through her scope, she watched glass explode and Murad collapse backward, skull fractured in a violent spray. Inside the room, chaos ignited. Officers screamed. Guards scrambled. Chairs overturned. Windows became portals of fear instead of safety. The silence of mathematics had given way to the thunder of consequence. Rachel shifted half a breath, cycling the bolt with fluid grace. Crosshairs caught General Samir Darwish as he turned instinctively toward the sound. His temple aligned with the reticle as if the rifle had summoned him there. Another trigger squeeze. Another violent crack. The round entered Darwish's head with surgical precision. He dropped mid-turn, body folding awkwardly before hitting the floor. 2 shots. 2 leaders erased. The third target, General Yusuf Rahmani, bolted for cover. His body cut across the room, legs pumping toward the stairwell. Rachel adjusted for velocity, angle, and the bullet's time of flight. Her heart rate steadied at 50 beats per minute, the rhythm of control. She led him by less than a meter, held the sight picture, and fired. The bullet punched through the window frame and found his skull mid-stride. Rahmani collapsed at the threshold, momentum carrying him only a step before the body went limp. 11.7 seconds. 3 shots, 3 kills. The most improbable sequence in modern combat executed without hesitation. The SEALs froze. Eyes widened, jaws locked, and no one spoke for a breath. Chief Pierce broke the silence in a hoarse whisper. "No way. I saw it, but I don't believe it." Commander Cole lowered his spotting scope. He stared at Rachel as if she had just redrawn the boundaries of human skill. "You just did what the world calls impossible," he said quietly. His voice carried awe and dread in equal measure. Rachel ejected the last casing and secured her rifle with efficient hands. She did not smile, did not gloat. For her, it was numbers executed, a problem solved with brutal finality. Then the alarms shattered the air. Sirens wailed across the compound, red lights flashing along the perimeter. Enemy soldiers rushed into formation, rifles raised, voices carrying orders through the valley. Cole's radio crackled with urgent chatter. Patrols were already fanning out, search teams moving into the hills. The compound was alive with fury, and the hunt had begun. Rachel snapped her notebook shut and packed the rifle into its case. "They'll sweep the valley in minutes," she said, her voice calm as stone. "We need to move now." The team reacted instantly, each operator shifting from stunned witness to hardened professional. Gear lifted, weapons readied, escape routes checked. Cole gave one last glance at the compound where 3 generals now lay still. He knew history had just pivoted in less than 12 seconds. He also knew survival was the next problem. He motioned forward with a sharp hand signal. The SEALs broke cover, boots pounding across rock and sand. The valley that had held its breath was now awake with the roar of pursuit. Rachel followed, steady and precise, the rifle case on her back. Behind her, smoke curled from shattered windows and the wail of alarms echoed across iron rock. The impossible had been done, but the cost of being seen was coming fast. The team sprinted into the canyon, boots grinding against loose stone. Enemy rifles cracked from the ridge, bullets whining low and sharp. Dust exploded beside them as drones circled overhead, searchlights cutting through the twilight. Rachel moved at the rear, rifle unboxed again, firing short, controlled bursts at silhouettes closing in. Each round bought seconds for the squad to push forward. She shifted position without panic, weaving cover fire into the rhythm of retreat. Cole barked directions into his mic, voice clipped and urgent. He charted the route like a man memorizing a map at gunpoint. The canyon twisted into a labyrinth, offering cover one moment and exposure the next. A mortar tube coughed from the hills. The round came screaming down, detonating against the slope in a geyser of fire and shrapnel. Rachel stumbled, ears ringing, vision shaking. Cole lunged, dragging her behind a boulder as fragments ripped the air. "You'd be gone without that rock," Cole muttered, eyes hard. Then softer, almost grudging, "Without you, we'd all be gone already." The admission landed heavier than the mortar. Rachel reloaded, chambering another round with calm precision. She dropped an enemy team moving to flank, each shot landing like punctuation. Her green eyes never left the sights. Her pulse was steady as the rifle's recoil. The squad advanced deeper, reaching the choke point that funneled into a wider gorge. Enemy boots echoed from behind, the hunt closing fast. Pierce covered one angle, his fire tight and disciplined. He no longer mocked. His silence spoke louder than words. A UAV buzzed low, infrared scanning across rock. Rachel fired once, clipping the lens and sending it spiraling down in sparks. The valley roared with frustration from the enemy ranks. Reyes called from the front, half a click to extraction. His voice cracked under strain, but the words were fuel. The team pushed harder, legs burning, lungs raw with dust. Another mortar dropped, closer this time. Cole shoved Rachel flat, shielding her with his own body as fragments tore into the sand. He rose with blood on his sleeve, waving the team forward. "Move! Move now!" They broke through the gorge's end, the sound of rotor blades cutting into the sky. The exfil helicopter hovered beyond a ridge, downwash scattering grit like a storm. Its crew signaled furiously, urging them across the last stretch. Enemy squads appeared on the high ground, rifles spitting fire. Rachel turned on one knee, laying down precision shots to buy the other's space. Cole and Pierce hauled Reyes, who had twisted an ankle, dragging him toward salvation. Bullets clawed at the dirt around them. A round grazed Rachel's ghillie suit, tearing fabric but missing flesh. She fired twice more, suppressing the high ground long enough for the squad to cross the open patch. The helicopter's ramp clanged as boots hit steel. Operators piled in, yanking each other aboard under the whine of gunfire. Rachel was last up, Cole pulling her in with both hands as the pilot throttled skyward. Tracer fire lanced past as the valley shrank beneath them. Explosions flared in frustration from the enemy below. The squad sat in silence, chests heaving, the roar of the rotors drowning everything else. Cole turned toward Rachel, sweat and blood streaking his face. "Tell me," he said, not as a commander but as a man who had seen something that broke his rules. "Who are you really?" Rachel unlatched her helmet, strands of brown hair falling loose. Her voice was level, quiet, absolute. "My name is Monroe, but in classified files, I'm Specter." Pierce sat opposite, rifle across his knees, his eyes locked on hers with respect that no words could carry. The sneer was gone, replaced by recognition carved deep, above the noise. Cole nodded once, not approval, not command, just acknowledgement of truth. The team rode the silence, each man aware they had witnessed something they would never fully be able to explain. Weeks later, encrypted reports confirmed the collapse. With 3 generals gone, the enemy's command fractured into chaos. Operations unraveled, cells fought among themselves, and resistance faded into scattered embers. The official mission log recorded only surveillance. No shots fired, no contacts made, No engagement acknowledged. The valley's silence was written into history as fact. Yet in the margins of secret archives, one codename marked the file: Specter. 3 shots, 3 deaths, 1 war shifted. They had said no one could make that shot. But sometimes, no one is not the absence of possibility. Sometimes it's the one person the world never expects. And Rachel Monroe had proven that impossible was only another kind of certainty, waiting to be claimed. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.